about the informational self-determination. For a natural person, to benefit from personal data protection, for a natural person to benefit from personal data protection, two cumulative conditions. Two cumulative conditions must be met. First is that data must be personal data. Data must be personal data as defined by law. And it must relate to an identified or identifiable natural person, and it must relate to an identified or identifiable natural person. And second, the data must be subject to manual processing. The data must be subject to manual processing through a structured and stable file, or automated processing. A structured and stable file or automated processing. With big data, it's still necessary to determine the elements. It's still necessary to determine the elements related to the ownership, to determine the elements related to the ownerships of personal data protection rights. In fact, it's a real right if it can be exercised. It's a real right if it can be exercised. I cannot say fully exercised by the holder of the right. It means the person to whom the process data relates, of course. The principle is that the holder of the rights is necessary the data subject themselves. The principle is that the holder of the right is necessary the data subject themselves. Indeed, it's the person who is the master of the data being processed. It's the person who is the master of the data being processed because he has got the data control, in fact. Because he's got data control. So, first of all, in Germany, this control was enshrined. This control was enshrined as the right to informational self-determination. The control was enshrined as the right to informational self-determination by the German Federal Constitutional Court by the German Federal Constitutional Court in a judgment of 1983. In a judgment of 1983. And what we can read in this judgment, the court, the Constitutional Court, just one word. When we talk about compared law, and when we talk about constitutional compared law, the German Federal Constitutional Court is one of the major courts in the world. There's a reason to that. The Federal Court is born after the World War II in the country who is the reason why the World War II has begun, Germany. So when they create a new framework, a new political and constitutional framework, the German, remember at this time, it was only West Germany, because at this time, in 1949, there were two Germany. West, from the Occidental Bloc, and the East Germany, who belongs to the socialist countries. So it was very separate, a separate country, and there was only one country in 1991, not before. And they stayed during 40 years in two separate countries, as Korea, in fact, exactly as Korea. Back in Germany, and the Constitutional Court and the constitutional framework of Germany, of West Germany, was decided as a very democratic way. Was very democratic, depending on the constitution, but in a time where they were quite alone in 1949. They were quite the only one, quite alone, to follow this way, this constitutional way. So what I wanted to say is that the judgment of the German Federal Constitutional Court are oftenly pioneers in the protection of fundamental rights. I don't write them, but as an example, depending on the question of the protection of the rights by the European Court of Justice, there were an important decision of this German Federal Constitutional Court in 1970s, 1971, 1973, several decisions, and even in other countries as France and other countries of the EEC, of the European Community at this time, they were followed because it was very impressive about the question of the decisions of the European Court. So it's not a detail. It's not because it's not my country, and it's important for the constitution, the build of the European Union. I close this point, but what I want to say with the judgment of 1983, it was in this judgment the court, the German court, recognized that the Constitution, the German Constitution, of course, recognized that the Constitution guarantees, in principle, the individual's ability to decide on the communication, and use of their personal data. I repeat, the Constitution guarantees in principle the individual's ability to decide on the communication and use of their personal data. This is this is the heart of information self-determination. This is the heart of informational self-determination. So, the right to informational self-determination allows, on one hand, giving individuals to the means to remain free, giving individuals the means to remain free, to conduct their lives in the digital society, giving individuals the means to remain free, to conduct their lives in the digital society, by choosing whether or not to leave a trace, whether or not to leave a trace of their personal data. And on the other hand, affirming the privacy of the person who must be able to exercise their freedom. On the other hand, affirming the privacy of the person who must be able to exercise their freedom. So, the informational self-determination has been included in the GDPR. In the GDPR, in a easy way, it's only written that natural persons should have control of their own personal data. And it's enough, in fact. Natural persons should have control of their own personal data. As it seems to be easy, James. Yeah.
The natural person should have their own of their personal data. So why you choose the word of should? It could be the national person. It should maybe something like that.
No, it should be natural person, of course.
Why?
Why? Because
I mean, why you put the word of should? Why not could? It will be clear more than should.
Yeah, it will be clearly, but it's a fundamental right. So the controller must ensure that the guarantee can allow to natural person to benefit of their rights. So in a way, there's two kinds of natural person who have some problems to decided for their own. These two kinds of persons are first the minors, and second the question of the person who deceased. So the question of minors. Of course, minors lack discernment. Every parent between us say that minors lack discernment. Minors lack discernment, and they are legally incapacitated, of course. So the issue of collecting minors' personal data arises daily, and particularly on social media. On social media, they give trace of what they choose, what they are looking at, everything else. So this question buzzed the Commission, and the GDPR said that the processing of personal data of a child is lawful only where the child is over 16 years old. So the processing of personal data as a child is lawful only when the child is over 16 years old. But 16, maybe sometimes it's too old. Yeah, sometimes. So when the child is below 16, what matter? When the child is below 16, the consent shall be given, or maybe I say it must be given by their parents, or for those children concerned, the holder of the parental responsibility. So for the children below the age of 16, the consent is given or authorized by the holder of parental responsibility over the child. Important question, because it was said that in fact the digital majority is not 18 or 20 or 21 or something else. It's 16, depending on the social media. What age? This is the end of minority in Cambodia. 17. 18. Okay, 18. 18, the same in France. So it means, but depending on the European Union, you see, you have, as in France, some young, you have some children aged more than 16 a day,